So, it's Saturday night and you're arriving at a bar. It's a new place, but you're with some friends. You've already told yourself that you're going to take it easy tonight, a few drinks, and that's it. You want to be fresh and energized on Monday because next week will be a big one. You get past the door guy and you go in. It's a good vibe at first glance, a large-ish venue with a few different rooms and a big dance floor. The music is loud, not too loud that you can't have a conversation, but loud enough. Since it's your first time here, you feel slightly nervous, but you're sure that you'll get warmed up. Welcome to Stone Cold Moderation, a thinking man's journey toward a healthier relationship with alcohol. I'm your host, Chase Lee. Let's continue with our story. You head straight to the bar and decide to go for something strong. A Jack and Coke. You didn't really pregame, so you're trying to get a buzz going ASAP. So, you down it within 5 minutes, and then you spend the next 5 minutes standing there, chewing on ice cubes with your sad, empty glass. And then, right on cue, thank God, your buddy triumphantly declares that it's gonna be a round of tequila shots on him. You can't turn that down. It's Saturday night after all. You'd prefer not to mix liquors, but it's still early in the night, so you'll be fine. You'll probably stop after the shot. Maybe a final beer later on. Salt, lime, pa arriba, pa abajo, pa centro, pa dentro. You know the drill. Now you're feeling a little buzz. A cute group of girls, presumably out on a girls' night, appeared stage left by the bar, and you know what must be done. You tap your buddy on the arm, and the two of you walk over to say hello. After a minute or two of friendly chatter, you triumphantly declare that it'll be a round of tequila shots on you. They accept, and your walls have been breached. Let's have a fucking night, you say to yourself. Mixed drink after mixed drink, maybe another tequila shot, a beer or two. Next thing you know, you're hammered. You laugh, you dance. Maybe things go well with the girls you met, maybe not. At 2 a.m., you stumble out of the bar in a drunken stupor. You feel great. You only live once after all, and you just had an awesome time with your friends. 3 hours ago, you walked into that place sober and a bit apprehensive, and 3 hours later, you emerge victorious. You're exhilarated and on fire. But you realize that you are, in fact, very drunk. Time to do some damage control. You chug a water and get some late night tacos, a godsend. You get an Uber and before you know it, you're home. After struggling momentarily to get your keys to cooperate, you finally stammer into your apartment and find your way to bed. Before your head hits the pillow, you just pray that you don't get the spins. That's the fucking worst. The hangover shouldn't be all that bad, you think to yourself. The late night tacos will save you. You wake up. Before you dare to open your eyes, you assess. Headache? No. Thirsty? Of course. Queasy stomach? A little. You figure the coast is clear, so you open your eyes and fumble around for your phone. You see that it's already late morning, but you have blackout blinds, so your room stays dark and cool. As you respond to a text message from your buddy, it hits you. You're still drunk. Shit. Damage control round 2. Act now or pay for it later. You hoist yourself up out of bed and gingerly totter over to the kitchen. Luckily, you're an adult, so you're always prepared. You open the fridge and grab the large orange Gatorade you bought the week before just in case. It takes you 5 minutes to remove all the goddamn wrappings off the top, but you eventually get it open, and you take it back to bed. Ah, Gatorade. The holy grail. You get back in bed and ponder if you should have stayed in the kitchen to eat something. Nah, your stomach's not ready yet. You'll wait a bit. It's Sunday, so you have a shit ton of things to do to get ready for the next week. But you're going to need to stem the tide of this hangover a bit before making any big moves. Netflix it is. Fast forward 4 hours, and you're still in bed. Wouldn't dare go outside. Blackout shades still in full effect. Full vampire mode. During this time, you've managed to call for a delivery of wings, of which you could eat only half. Stomach couldn't handle more. And you've watched a full movie and a few episodes of a show, and now it's time for a nap. Good night. You wake up suddenly 2 hours later, and it hits you like a ton of bricks. You have to go to fucking work tomorrow. Hello darkness, my old friend, aka the dreaded Sunday scaries. Luckily, your hangover is under control, finally, but you are spent, and you feel like absolute shit. You spend the rest of the day trying to avoid the thoughts of Monday, and trying to prevent yourself from falling into a pit of despair, and the episode of anxiety and depression that will certainly accompany it. It's already evening, and you need to do a few things to get ready for tomorrow. You'll do the bare minimum. Fast forward to late evening, you didn't really accomplish anything. You spent most of the time scrolling through Instagram and watching carpool karaoke on YouTube because it makes you happy and distracts you from your pathetic misery. You hope to God that a full night's sleep will get you back to neutral. Nope. Doesn't work. You can barely get out of bed the next day. And as you arrive at work, you realize that Saturday night really took one out of you. As the day goes by, you're just trying to survive so that you can get home right after work and get a nap. And that's how your week goes on from there. You're sluggish, lethargic, and slightly defeated. By Thursday morning, you finally feel like yourself again, and you've told yourself there's no way you're going to go out this weekend. You'll just barricade yourself in your bedroom and ignore all communications from your friends. Maybe you'll even tell them that you're sick. So, what did you actually accomplish from that night out on Saturday? Your life wasn't so bad before that bender. If you hadn't drank all that, you still probably would have had a blast. So why did you do it? Why did you succumb to the drink once again?
Perfect.
Okay, so before we get into today's discussion, I wanted to, announce that I've added a fourth tenet to my approach. So now there's 4 tenets, not just 3. The fourth tenet is going to be, if you need to quit, quit. I had a friend hit me up the other day from college, and she was like, I don't really understand why you would preach moderation if quitting alcohol altogether is better and healthier. Doesn't really make sense to me. And I couldn't disagree, to be quite honest. Like I said on my first episode, I would definitely, it's kind of common knowledge that not consuming any alcohol is better for you than consuming any amount of alcohol. It's important to me that it's your choice, that you make the decision for yourself of what is right for you. And again, moderation is not going to be for everyone. If you are an alcoholic, if you are dependent on alcohol and you're off the wagon, for example, starting to try moderation and fall off the wagon is going to be opening a Pandora's box. But for people like me who think they can handle moderation, who think it might work for them, be healthy, be sustainable, I believe in it because it's worked for me. I've spoken to many others who it's worked for. So that's why I'm here talking about this. But again, I'm going to add that fourth tenet, but I just want to be very clear about kind of where I stand on that. So with that said, let's talk about this story that I just told. Yeah, a typical Saturday night. I think a lot of us, especially the guys out there, have been in this situation many, many times. Gone out with the intention, oh, I'm just gonna like be calm. I'm gonna maybe drink a little bit, maybe just one or two. One thing leads to another, and then all of a sudden, a couple hours later, you are hammered. And I shouldn't say that, just the guys out there. I think everyone has experienced this at some point, falling into that trap and getting drunk when you didn't really want to. So what the hell happened, right? Why did you decide to drink? Let's go through a couple things. Some of the reasons why in this situation I think that happened. Number one, social conditioning. You're out at a bar. This is what people do. That's something that you kind of, at least me, when I've been in these situations, that's kind of been in my head. I've been like making these, like arguing to myself, like the devil on my shoulder, arguing to myself about why I should drink. This is what people do. We're at a bar. Go ahead and have a few drinks. And yeah, I mean, this is what people do. People go out to bars and they drink. People go out to clubs, they drink. In these drinking situations, people drink. We've been taught this from when we first started noticing things about the world. I mean, from when we were children, we saw our parents drink. We've seen people do it in movies, on TV. This is what we're exposed to. Okay. So it's hard to really break those patterns. Peer pressure. Can't turn down shots. Okay. Can't turn down your free drinks. Your buddy brings a round of shots. It's hard to say no. Yeah. Peer pressure. God. Gonna talk about it forever on this show, I think. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory there. Hard to turn down tequila shots. Number 3, oof. Getting lucky. Guys, when we go out, a lot of times, let's be honest, we're looking to try to meet a girl. Okay? We're looking to get lucky. For whatever reason, we've trained ourselves into thinking that if the drunker we are, the better chance it gives us to get laid. That couldn't be farther from the truth at this point. I feel like I've found, especially when you get really, really, really drunk, that is not helpful at all. But yeah, this is kind of what we've just always done, right? Going out, getting drunk, trying to meet girls. I think something that I notice in myself is that there's this, there's the fear of when you're going to go and you're going to approach someone, right? So I've noticed in myself in the past, just not even wanting to deal with that. And so just drinking to cover it up so I don't have that fear, but it's normal. You're supposed to have that little fear. It kind of gives you that motivation to actually to actually put yourself out there. Right. And so I would like to challenge people to not try to turn off those fears, those social fears, those uncomfortable feelings. Right. It's seen probably by many as a weakness, but I don't think it is. So I kind of like to change the perspective on that. Fear of missing out. The YOLO effect, perhaps, because we live in the Drake generation at this point. This is a strong one with me. I feel like anxiety, hardcore anxiety, if I think I'm going to miss out on some social activity. I'm not sure why this is. I think I know why it is. I think it's because when I was in high school, I felt like I didn't have a lot of friends, and I felt like people were constantly trying to ditch me or something, or avoid me in social situations because I was shy and very awkward. So I think I've built this, from that planted a seed in my mind. And for the rest of my life, I've been scared of missing out on a good time and having to hear about it later. And I don't know if this is strong with other people, but that totally is for me. Right. So a lot of times you're like, oh, I'm not going to go out tonight. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to stay in. But then you feel that fear of, oh, I'm going to miss out. So you end up going and you end up doing way too much. Could just be me. I don't know. I'd like to get some other perspectives on that. And then another one. And again, all of these, probably each of these themes that I'm talking about right now probably deserve their own episode. And hopefully we'll have enough time to do that. especially this next one, escapism. I mean, that's massive, right? Drinking to escape temporarily your life. And this is throughout human history. We have, that was a big statement, throughout human history. But we have used substances to this very end, correct? Trying to turn your brain off and trick yourself into thinking that you're going into a different place for a short amount of time to escape something, to escape your life. That's a big thing. We're going to talk more about that later. For me, as we start to wrap this up, I call it joy amplification. This is a major motivation for me, because I'm not the kind of person who drinks when I'm feeling bad. I've certainly drank to like escape my situation, but I am much more likely to drink and get very drunk when things are going well, to celebrate something. If I have like a great week, I want to celebrate that. If I'm just in a good place mentally and emotionally, I want to celebrate that. And I want to, for some reason, like make that moment last or amplify that moment. And yeah, party. And I end up getting really drunk, if that makes any sense. It's almost as if, this is getting a little abstract, but it's almost as if I'm scared that like this moment in time will be lost, and I'll maybe never get back to like a happy point like this again. So I feel the need to amplify it. So why do we do all these things, and why do these sources even exist in the first place? People who know me well know that I have a theater background, something I'm very passionate about. And in college, we learned about this very influential and famous and prolific theater director from Brazil, who I don't believe is alive anymore, but his name was Augusto Boal. And I'll leave some links to some of his works on the show notes. But one of his most important ideas was talking about mechanization. Basically, what he talked about, very closely connected to social conditioning, was that in life, as you're socialized and you grow up, you learn social behaviors. You are essentially programmed and mechanized to behaving a certain way, to thinking a certain way, to reacting a certain way to situations. You're completely mechanized. And actually the work of the theater artist, especially the actor, is to demechanize yourself, so that in doing so you can actually inhabit other characters and other lives. Because if you're going in to another character with all of as yourself and all of your mechanizations, for example, it's not going to work. You might not be able to get there. But if you can free yourself from this and you can just become this sort of very free, very liberated entity, you can start to embody other characters and other things. So he was huge on this, and demechanization of your mind and body is what he preached. And as this relates to alcohol, I want to start to demechanize myself from doing all of these things. When you go to a bar, you have to drink. When you're in this situation, you have to do this. Okay. And I've been conscious of sort of these things in my own life the last few years, and especially the last 6 months since I have made these changes. And I think it's very powerful. So it's something I want to talk more about, and something I want to explore deeper. But I think the $1 million question here still remains, getting down to the nitty gritty. If you're in this kind of situation, can you still have fun if you're sober, and if you are moderating, barely drinking? And I'm going to meet you with a resounding yes. Okay. You can do it. And you should give it a try, because it can actually be extremely, extremely fun. if I can, and it sounds so cliche, but if I can do it, you can do it. Okay. I've never been the life of the party. That's not my natural state at all. I'm definitely somebody who still feels social anxiety, but instead of trying to mute myself to those fears, I'm kind of in the process of trying to use those as inertia and this motivation and energy in those situations to have a great experience. So again, bet on yourself, believe in yourself, give it a try. And a lot of guys out there are going to be thinking, can I be in a situation like this and approach girls sober? That's the exact thought that's the first thing that went into my head, right? When I was like, maybe I should stop drinking so much, but how am I going to talk to girls, right? Think about this. You're going to be in this situation. You have all of your mental faculties. Okay. Your brain is functioning at 100%. You can actually be in that situation. You can react to what people are saying, and you're yourself. You're in the moment. You're fun. You're reactive. I challenge you because I think, I think you will be successful. Okay. And think about it this way. If we need to be drunk off our ass to go and approach a woman at a bar, that's a problem. Okay. And we need to do a little bit better than that. And we need to kind of grow and evolve a little bit as a species. Am I right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so moving right along, super pleased to have a close friend of mine as a guest on this episode. His name's Chris Blomquist. He has recently gone sober, and I had him on to basically talk about his experiences with being sober and answering the question, why do we drink? So here's the interview from him. All right, so special guest today. We got my buddy Chris Blomquist on the phone. Chris, thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, happy to be here, Chase.
Awesome. So just a little introduction. Chris and I go way back. We went to the same university, Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. We were members of the fraternity Phi Sigma Chi. We were members of the same pledge class, PC-12. If you don't know what that is, we'll explain that later, I guess. That's a whole nother episode. But basically, we go very far back, and we have drank a lot of alcohol together in each other's presence. That's needless to say. So Chris has seen me drunk a lot, and I've seen him drunk a lot. But these days, Chris has turned another leaf, and he is actually sober. So we're going to get into that. But first, Chris, if you wanted to just introduce yourself. Where do you live? What do you do? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to start off saying, Chase, I think this is the first conversation I've had with you where we're both sober in our lifetime. So this is exciting for me too.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
But what I do is I live in San Antonio, Texas. I'm 26. I do marketing for a software company. It's a company here in San Antonio. I've been in a relationship for almost 3 years now, and I quit drinking July of 2019. So I guess that's 8-9 months of being sober.
Wow. That's and congratulations on that. That's quite a feat.
Thank you.
And you might be my only friend who I think is completely sober, at least from like the fraternity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I am also the only person I know. So I'll share that with you.
Wow. So hats off to you on that. So yeah, let's get into it. What was your first experiences with alcohol, for example, in high school?
So the first time I ever had alcohol was every New Year's. My parents would let me have a sip of champagne, even when I was a kid, like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, just a little sip. And as I got older, 14, 15, 16, that sip became a glass. And actually, when I was, I believe, a junior in high school, so a bit of a late bloomer, they left the bottle there, and I just kind of finished it myself. So that was the first time getting drunk, and I was totally alone. So there was no way to really gauge how I was acting. But it was a feeling I enjoyed. And then after that, I had always been invited to parties and went and didn't drink. But after that, I just started to drink at parties and dip my toe into actually starting to consume alcohol. Before college, I had probably only been drunk a handful of times, but when I got to college, obviously alcohol is more common than water in an environment like that. So drinking became less of an occasional thing and more of a, every week, almost every day type of situation.
What about the transition from college to early adulthood? What was that like?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of the reason people start drinking is a peer pressure thing, right? In high school to fit in, or in college, just because it's so ingrained into the university lifestyle. And you think that goes away. People always say, yeah, college is crazy. You're not going to really remember much. That's the time and place to go and experiment and do things. And you think that it would stop or chill out a little bit after college. But depending on where you go to work, it can absolutely just keep rolling. Me doing marketing for a small tech company, on my very first day of work, we closed the deal, and we had a tradition where if you closed the deal, you immediately got to drink a beer. We were very small, so we weren't closing very many deals at the time. But on my first day at 10 a.m., we closed the deal. So the CCO came over to my desk with a beer. It's like, hey, man, we closed the deal. You want this? And I was like, well, it's my first day. I don't know if I need to do that. And he's like, I mean, you want to fit in here, right? Obviously joking around, but I took the beer. And then being part of a marketing team that works closely with sales guys, you're taking customers out all the time. You're attending conferences. You're just as likely to close a deal at a bar as you are, over the phone or on a live demo. So depending on where you start working or what position you're holding, the social pressure of continuing to drink can very much last beyond college.
Yeah. So going more into that, well, talk to us a little bit before that. Why have you stopped drinking now, if you'd care to share about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I stopped drinking because I was diagnosed with a minor form of epilepsy. So actually, when I would be hungover for drinking, and this started in college, I would have little twitches the morning after that I kind of brushed aside and said, oh, this is, just me being hungover. And then last summer, after a considerably bad night of drinking, I woke up and had some twitches in the morning, and then actually woke up in my front yard surrounded by EMTs, having no idea of how I got there, saying, hey, what's going on, guys? They said, you just experienced a seizure. We need to take you to the ER. So I went in, did some tests over the next month, and they say, hey, you have this very mild form of epilepsy. It's fine. Take some medication twice a day. You'll be good. The biggest thing is that you cannot drink, because if you drink, it will interfere with the quality of sleep you get. The biggest contributor to this illness you have is not getting a good night's rest. So that is why I decided to stop drinking. It was funny. The first thing I asked is, are you sure? I didn't want to give up drinking at all, even after having a seizure. I'm like, maybe one, maybe two. He's like, listen, man, you have to weigh this out. It's either you have a seizure again, or, you quit drinking. It's your priority. It's your life. I'm not going to tell you what to do. So that was a moment where it's like, well, yeah, a beer or getting drunk on a Friday is probably not worth my physical health. So that's why I decided to stop drinking, and I haven't had a drink since that happened.
Wow. Yes, and congrats on that for maintaining the sobriety. That's very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. I still dream about drinking alcohol, so I don't think I'm totally beyond it yet. I swear I had a dream last night, so it's a fairly common thing.
Yeah, especially these days when we're in quarantine. I know it's definitely the cravings for me as well. Like the cravings have been coming like real hard. There's nothing to do, right? And it's just like you just want to, I don't know, you want to do something, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. I'm wondering, what were those first, because that must have been like a big shock to you, right? Hearing you cannot drink alcohol anymore.
Right.
What were those first couple of like days, weeks, months like when you became sober?
It was tough. I craved it. I was in a routine where I would drink caffeine all day at work and then get home and immediately crack open a beer to relax. So I was having probably at least a beer every day. And then obviously on the weekends, I would drink to get drunk. So having alcohol around and drinking alcohol was like a reflex for me. It was like breathing. So in the first week, it was pretty easy not drinking because I was still in shock of what had happened. But obviously, as time progressed, that kind of wears off a bit.
Yeah. So one thing when I've been, I guess, like sober at the bar or not drinking at the bar, for example, that for me has been one of the toughest situations because it's like, what do I do? Right. And I personally feel very uncomfortable when I'm just there and not participating in the drinking. So like, what do you do when you're at a bar? Like, do you just drink? Do you just order like, I don't know, a Coke from the bar? Like, what is your strategy there?
Oh yeah, for me it's the ritual, having something in my hand. I'm really big on grilling too. To me, grilling was an excuse to just kind of drink beer in the afternoon on a weekend and not feel bad about it. So the ritual of having something in my hand and having something carbonated to drink is still very strong with me. So as long as I have sparkling water, seltzer, something like that, I'm good to go. So I'm clearing grocery stores out of Topo Chicos and San Pellegrinos and things like that. You should check my recycling can. It's the same quantity, it's just the beer cans have been replaced with sparkling seltzer. So for me, as long as I have something in my hand, I feel comfortable. And if you are in a situation where you're a little bit self-conscious about it, you just slap a koozie on it and people have no idea. They won't even notice.
Yeah. And you still have a good time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The only thing that I notice is not even myself being self-conscious, but if you're sober around a lot of drunk people, it can be annoying in that drunk people are loud as hell. So there's a lot of little things that you notice being sober that you didn't before, and it's a lot of it's really funny. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is definitely interesting. It's a different perspective.
What was the response that you got from your friends? Did you get any resistance? Has there been any peer pressure to drink since then?
So this is the funny thing is that I was the peer pressure guy trying to get people to drink during the week or on weekends, saying, hey man, come drink a beer, come play some drinking games. Well, you're only going to have one. So I absolutely deserved to be on the other side of that coin once I stopped drinking. But I didn't really get it much. Honestly, I think there's an old saying that you should never ask people why they stop drinking because you have no idea why, right? So that's a can of worms you don't really want to open. But people would ask me, hey man, you're not going to have a drink? And I say, yeah, I actually was diagnosed with epilepsy, so I can't drink. And that immediately shuts anybody up who's going to try to give you shit about it. Being totally transparent and honest from my perspective worked for me. I'm not self-conscious about it. It's not a big deal to me. So kind of putting that back in somebody's face, it stops them from asking questions. So that hasn't been a problem with me. But if it is with people that I'm less comfortable with or less familiar with, I just tell them, I have an early morning tomorrow, or I don't really feel like drinking, or I don't drink anymore, and just leave it at that. So obviously it's going to vary depending on who you're talking to, but sometimes honesty is the best policy.
Right. Yeah. I've had that experience as well. Like picking your moments to explain the situation to people, picking the moments just to lie about it, just to get past it. It's kind of tricky sometimes, but
yeah, especially alumni weekend, right? When you came in, there were probably 100, 200 people you hadn't seen since college. Everyone's drunk. A lot of people noticed I wasn't drinking, so I got to tell that story probably 20 times that night. Someone comes up, why aren't you drinking? And then I would go on a long explanation of what happened. The next person comes up, slightly less. By the end of the night, someone's like, why aren't you drinking? I would just be like, epilepsy. And then they would just turn around and walk away. I was like, I'm tired of talking about this shit. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I was so drunk that I had no idea that you were sober. I didn't know that you had gone sober until like months after.
Yeah, exactly.
No, actually until like 2 weeks ago when you commented on the podcast. So that's insane.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess talking about alumni weekend, just on a personal note, because this was one of my last drunken hurrahs. What did you notice? I mean, there's a lot of people. A lot of people were drunk. There's a lot of chaos. But what did you see, like, from me being drunk? And especially, do you remember when we were in the HEB, like, shopping on Friday, the next day?
I very vividly remember seeing you for the first time in God knows how long. Hungover, to the point of death, walking through the grocery store trying to find products. You just have like no idea where anything is. I'm like, Chase, toilet paper is on your list and it's 2 feet away from you, man. All you have to do is reach out and grab it. It's right there. So yeah, I vividly remember you being hungover when I first saw you.
Yeah, that was brutal, and that was one of my last hurrahs. I don't know, like, did I seem happy? Did I seem like, I don't know, like, you had seen me like that before, obviously, but was there something different this time, being like 27 at the time, as opposed to when we were like 19?
Yeah, it is interesting because alumni weekend, where everybody from who's graduated comes back to the old stomping grounds and gets drunk together. People get drunk to the degree like they're in college, so it does feel like people are trying to relive some glory days, and I got that vibe from everybody. I did get it from you, but there was nothing completely different about the way that you were drinking than what I'd seen before. I could tell you were excited to see everybody again, and it was. To say you were an annoying drunk, but you were certainly one of the loud, kind of all over the place drunks. So you and I had quite a few conversations, but me being sober, I was a little less out there. So I was probably hanging out in the background a little bit more than I otherwise would have.
Yeah. Wait, did you tell me that weekend that you were sober? Do you remember talking to me about it?
I don't know.
Okay.
It could have been I was so sick of telling people about it. As I told you before that I didn't mention it to you, but maybe I did. I honestly couldn't tell you.
And I one of the reasons that I've decided to quit is because I started to black out a lot, and that weekend I was just totally blacked out.
Right.
Like all of Saturday pretty much during like the day party, which is sad because we obviously had a good time, and I couldn't remember like anything.
Right. And that's, I mean, the biggest memory I have from you is you put on a hell of a party. So kids in the actual fraternity are supposed to be the ones that are active, are supposed to be the ones putting something on for us. They did not do a good job of this. So you took it over and just did your own thing. And I was incredibly impressed by it. So that's actually something that I still do. I've quit drinking, but I still throw parties relatively frequently, whether it's just a grill out or housewarming parties, Halloween parties, birthday parties. People drinking around me does not bother me. I still like people having a good time around me. So the satisfaction of throwing a good party and having people be happy because of something you did is really strong. So even if you had done everything that you did, except have a little more memory of it, I'm sure you would have felt very proud about what you put together in terms of people having a good time around you.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to my next one of my like tenets of Stone Cold Moderation, my program, is that you're, even without alcohol or a lot less alcohol, your social life doesn't have to change, right? You can still kind of have the same amount of fun, have the same amount of good relationships as you did before. Would you agree with that statement or disagree?
I would agree with it. Nothing has to change. It's just really a mindset and a mentality of I don't need to be wasted to have fun. I don't need the approval of, shotgunning a beer with this guy to have fun. It takes time to get there. The first time you go out after quitting drinking is uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable, I think, no matter what you do. But the more you do it, the better you feel and the more commonplace it becomes. And, I go out less frequently, but I still go out. And I've had just as much fun as I've had before.
Yeah. You were talking earlier about your professional life. And I know a lot of people have talked about they feel like they need to drink, right, in this professional setting, whether it be in business or any other industry to, like you said, to close deals, to meet with clients, blah, 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 to schmooze, as you said. So how has that presented a challenge?
Yeah, it's tough because, I work on the marketing side, so I'm not the one actually guiding the hand to sign the dotted line, but I'm still out there on occasion with customers. And I am thankful because I have other coworkers to lean on, the guys who will take customers out and buy shots and stay out till 2. I can kind of be the first leg of the relay race where everyone is still in control and I'm there, having a good conversation and hanging out before things get too crazy. But again, I just leave a little bit early and then, let the other folks bring it home in terms of, taking the customer out and saying yes to whatever they want to do. I know that I don't have that capacity. I can't stay up till 2 or 3, even if I'm not drinking. with the illness that I have, so it is self-control. It's just saying, hey, I'll go out, I'll have a good time with you, but I have to do it on my terms a little bit.
Was there ever like a fear when you were meeting with a client, or have you ever been in an uncomfortable situation where a client has been like, why aren't you drinking or something, right? Or yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said before, when I went to DC right after this happened, I told my coworker, I was like, hey, I haven't told many people this, but here's what happened to me. I'm not going to be drinking this weekend. And later that night, after he had quite a bit to drink, we were talking to a potential client, and he kind of, hits me on the shoulder, just joking around. He's like, this guy's not even drinking tonight. What's up with that? And I was like, come on, man, son of a bitch. Don't set me up like that. And it was uncomfortable, but I just kind of shook my head and I was like, hey, I'm drinking right here. I'm just staying hydrated. I'm going to be good to go tomorrow. Y'all are going to be ruined. So it's all about your attitude. I kept it positive and I threw it back a little bit. But if I had become, self-conscious or mortified that he had pointed it out, it probably would have been bad. So a lot of it's an attitude thing.
Gotcha. You mentioned that you were in a relationship now. What has that been like? And you've been in this relationship for a long time, right? So what was that like when you told her that you were going to stop drinking, and how has it changed your relationship, if at all?
Yeah, it is interesting because a lot of our early relationship, the foundation was alcohol. Met her at a bar. Every time we would go out on a date, alcohol was involved. Even on the day to day, it was, oh, you want to have a glass of wine, that turned into a bottle of wine. So alcohol was very ingrained in our relationship. Mandy was actually right next to me when I had that seizure, so she saw it firsthand. She was more scared about it than I was. She thought I was going to die. To me, it's just I have a memory of it, so it's not as traumatic. So I personally thought it would be a challenge, because everything we had done up to that point was, a lot of it involved alcohol. But she actually quit with me. I said, hey, you don't need to stop drinking. I don't mind. Even our other roommate at the time was like, hey, there's alcohol around the house. Do you want me to get rid of it? I was like, nah, dude, I appreciate the offer, but it's fine. But Mandy actually decided to quit drinking with me. So for the first few weeks, she quit drinking completely. She noticed a change in her body, which she was really into. I was into it as well, obviously. But she liked the lifestyle of not drinking. So I was lucky in that it was very conducive to what she was trying to accomplish as a person as well. So we both quit. Not to say she never drinks. If she's out with her friends, she'll have a margarita, or if she's at home, for the holidays, you always like to be socially lubricated for that. So she'll still drink on occasion, but I don't think she's ever had anything to drink around me. Not because I asked her to, but because she wanted to.
What would you say for people who are trying to go sober, but unfortunately have those around them who are, you could say, toxic, who are peer pressuring them, who are being super insistent about them drinking, who are just not accepting of the sober living, sober lifestyle? What advice would you give for those people?
I've been lucky enough to surround myself with people who are positive, and aren't the type of people who would make me do something I didn't want to do. But if there was somebody that was insistent, or somebody that, got in the way of what I need to do to be healthy, that's not somebody you need in your life regardless. To me, that's a red flag that, hey, this person doesn't care about you anyway. Cutting them out's not gonna impact you. Chances are it's for the best. So that's what I would say. It's always good to remove toxic people from your life. Trying to quit drinking and them putting an obstacle in your way is a huge red flag that, hey, this person is probably a toxic individual.
But up to this point, you haven't had to remove anybody from your life, because I know that's a big fear of a lot of people who are going to stop, thinking that, oh, my friends won't accept me, I'm going to ruin all these relationships. But in your experience so far, you've been fine.
Correct. Yeah. No, I have not had to remove anybody from my life. I have not had to change my lifestyle up that much. Again, I'm lucky that my circle of friends, the people I choose to spend my time with, want to spend time with me, whether I'm sober or not. But no, I haven't had to remove anybody from my life.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people sometimes, I guess, underestimate their relationships, underestimate their friends and their own personal standing in the friendship, and thinking that if one thing about them changes, that they're just going to be cast aside. You know what I mean? But I've had the same experience. I've had not one of my friends has even like reacted negatively to me saying that I've stopped, cut down my drinking or stopped drinking. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, a good thought experiment is just to say, hey, if one of my friends came up to me and told them that they were not drinking anymore, would I tell them I'm not going to be friends with them? Probably not. So, of course, when you're going through a change, um, you think things might be worse than they are. But if you kind of do that thought experiment to put yourself in their shoes, you'd be like, of course, I'm not going to like cut a friendship out because somebody decided to stop drinking. I'm not that type of person. So chances are your friends aren't either.
So last question, but the big question regarding or connecting to this episode. Why do you think that people drink?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, it was probably a mixture of stress and boredom. So again, having caffeine all day at work, coming home and drinking a beer to mellow out. It's actually been one of the issues I have experienced since I stopped drinking is finding a way to decompress after a long day of work or during a stressful period. I just don't have something yet that helps me with stress. I need to be a little more proactive about exploring other avenues. Maybe it's meditation. Somebody told me I should do woodworking, which is not something I'm going to try, but hey, I appreciate the piece of advice. But a lot of it, in my experience, has been stress and a mixture of boredom. There are also occasions on weekends where I would sit down and play Xbox for an afternoon, and I'm like, oh, I'll just drink a beer. What's the harm in it? And by the time I was, turning my Xbox off, I would look over and there was like a 12-pack finished next to me, and I'm like, wasted. I'm like, what happened, man? I was just drinking a beer. But to me, it is a mixture of stress and boredom. I feel like we live in very stressful times, obviously, right now, and our society contributes to a lot of stress. So that was my main form of escapism, was getting drunk and kind of forgetting about my responsibilities for a while.
Did you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that has been the biggest challenge for me, is finding a way to keep my stress low and finding an outlet to decompress.
Had you ever considered cutting back before, or was this a total novelty?
No, I had not considered cutting back at all. I had a mental picture of myself as a good drinker, as somebody who could control their alcohol consumption, of somebody who was a fun drunk to be around. I was not a violent drunk or a sad drunk. I was fortunately a happy drunk. But in retrospect, it was absolutely something I should have been cutting down on. I lost 15 pounds of beer weight. I weighed 180, so I didn't have much to lose to begin with, but I lost 15 pounds of beer weight in 2 weeks. So from a physical perspective, it was a huge, huge benefit to quit drinking. And then mentally, I got my mornings back. I've never been much of a morning person before, but drinking the way that I did, I was useless before noon almost every day. So it's nice to have your mornings back. It's like you're extending your life, because you can actually go out and do things in the morning that quite simply a hangover wouldn't let you do.
Gotcha. What final advice would you give anybody who's trying to either cut down drastically or go completely sober?
Don't be scared. It's not going to have as big of an impact on your life as you might think. Your relationships aren't going to change fundamentally, and the only ones that will change are ones that probably aren't healthy to begin with. And you'll also save a ton of money. I was probably spending $60 to $100 a week on alcohol. My bank account loves me that I quit drinking. So there are a lot of unintended positive side effects that you'll see from quitting drinking or cutting down on drinking. I promise you the benefits that you see, ones that you expect, and unexpected ones as well, will far exceed any negative that you think might come from it.
Gotcha. All right, man, that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experiences, and I commend you for your sobriety. And no, it sounds really positive, so I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Chase. It's awesome to hear that you're cutting back as well, and I respect you for moving forward with this podcast and bringing these stories to light.
Okay, amazing stuff, if I do say so myself. Quick reflection on that interview, what he was saying, stuff that jumped out to me. First of all, the pressure to drink in a professional setting, namely in the business world. I've never been in the business world, so to speak, so I can't really attest to that. But it really struck me how he was talking about closing deals and meeting with clients and whatnot, and how much pressure he felt to drink in those situations and how he really had to adjust now that he's sober. I know that there's a lot of people out there who feel all this pressure in these professional situations, not even your social situations, your professional situations, to drink and drink heavily sometimes. Like he was saying, it was just a normal thing after you close a deal, you drink. Friday after work, you get drunk with your colleagues. Yeah, that's heavy. That is extremely heavy, and that's going to be a big challenge for a lot of people who are going to try to go sober or who are going to try to cut down drastically in dealing with those situations. But also, I thought it was very encouraging how he talked about his progress in dealing with those situations and how he's able to now to say no, and how he's felt exhaustion over having to explain himself so many times. Oh yeah, like no, actually I don't drink. Actually, I'm going sober. But how sometimes he just doesn't feel the need to, right? Sometimes he simply just lies about it. Oh no, I'm not, I'm just not drinking today. Just brushing it aside. And I can totally back that up. It does get exhausting to have to explain yourself and feel the need to explain yourself over and over and over. I was also really impacted by how positive of a change it's had on his relationship, and how his girlfriend has been so receptive of all this. First of all, he's very lucky, like good for him and good for her, good for them, because not everybody has that experience. And yeah, I mean, it would be great if everybody out there had a partner who would just accept changes like this. But again, I think you got to have faith in your people and faith in your relationship, if you have one, to make these changes and not worry about being judged by that person. All right, so wrapping up this episode for today, I think we can agree that these nights, like I illustrated in my story that we've all had, are starting to have a real effect on our lives and our happiness, and are starting to become very much not worth it. They were not worth it for me then, and I never want to go back to that. Sincerely, never want to get back to that. So I would challenge you, and I would challenge us as a group, to start breaking through these behavior patterns. Okay? Start breaking through this social conditioning that has taught us that every time we go out, we need to drink and get drunk, and begin to start to de-mechanize ourselves from that. Okay? Seeing these situations as an opportunity to do something different. Okay? To not drink, to be sober in the moment, and to experience it. And again, the very blunt questions that people are asking themselves, that I ask myself: can I still have a good time when I go out if I'm not drunk? Yes, you can. Can I still talk to girls when I'm sober? Yes, you can. Okay, bet on yourself, challenge yourself, try it. You can do it. I promise. It might not be easy at first, but you can get there, right? You can do it. It's possible without alcohol. Bet on yourself, challenge yourself, and move forward. So the challenge for this week is maybe a little bit more subtle, but important. I challenge you to go and have a conversation with a friend or a family member, somebody close to you, and mention that you are trying to either quit alcohol or cut back. These conversations can really be huge icebreakers in moving forward, but they can be really, really difficult and really, really anxiety inducing to begin. Okay. But again, I think you're going to find that you can really make some breakthroughs through these conversations with people, even though it's awkward to get into at first. Super helpful. So I challenge you to mention to somebody close to you that you're trying to make some changes. This has been the Stone Cold Moderation Podcast with Chase Lee. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to check out the show notes on the description page of this episode or on stonecoldmoderation.com, where you can learn more about us. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook, add us on Snapchat, and make sure to tune in next time. We'll be talking about loneliness, isolation, and quarantine.